are here in Sony Vegas Studio Platinum 11, and if you guys want to record in 1080p 60 frames per second, which is pretty much one of the highest resolutions on YouTube, I would not recommend you doing this if your camera does not support 1080p 60 frames per second, because then it really won't look as sharp as it should on YouTube. YouTube will definitely make it 1080p 60, but it's not going to be 1080p 60 because it ain't going to be clear and it's not going to be that sharp. And this clip was a 1080p clip, but I did bring it down to 1080p 30 frames per second, just because when I upload to YouTube all the time, that's what I do, because I usually do 1080p 30 frames per second. But this clip was done at 1080p 60 frames per second. You can definitely tell a big difference when a clip is 1080p 60 or a clip is 1080p 30, because a 1080p 60 is basically a very, very smooth clip, very, very smooth. And it looks almost like you're looking like real life, like real high super quality video. And the only camera I have that does that is my Sony action camera. But you're going to go up here to render the video. And as you see, I have a name already set out for it. And I go to here where it says Sony AVC MVC MP4, and you're going to scroll down because it shows like memory stick, AV8C at 60i, 50i. You can record it to a Blu-ray, so it's a Blu-ray format. And then I just go to where it says internet format, and when I do that, I go down to where it says 60 frames or 50 frames per second. I don't know if you can do 720p at 60 frames a second, which is still really high quality, real sharp. But 50 frames per second is for like Europe and Australia, places like that where they do 25 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second, and they do 50 frames per second at 1080 instead of 60 frames, which I'm not exactly sure why they do it, but certain places around the world don't do the exact same format as we do here in the States. The United States is 24, 30, and 60 frames per second, and 24 frames per second is more that cinematic look or television, but on the internet you want to do at least 30 frames per second. But if you're doing a 60 frame per second video, you would click here and you would render the video, and it's going to be 20, and my audio is 28K, so it's 16 by 9. It's going to be really high quality, very sharp, but I wouldn't recommend you doing it unless you have one or two clips in the video that is 1080p 60 frames per second, because if all of them are 1080p at 30 frames, it's like a normal 1080p video, then I do not recommend you doing this, because the video, it ain't really going to do nothing. You're just upscaling the 30 frames to the 60 frames, and it's not great. And 1080p 60 frames per second is great for that slow motion. So you can take slow motion, take a video that's really high quality, slow it down, and it's still going to give you that very crisp slow motion. Because sometimes when you do slow motion in a camera, it's not the greatest slow motion, but 1080p at 60 frames per second, you can actually slow it down a little bit, so it will be a very smooth slow motion. So that is the tips for today, and this is a vlog that's coming up. Batman says, do more squats, girl. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this little clip. I'll play it right here so you guys can hear it, and it goes like this.
Do squats! Jen, I can tell you've been doing a lot of squats.
And it was something funny I found, and I thought it'd be cool to add to the vlog. But I'm Trevor, as always. Thanks for stopping by for another Sony Vegas Studio Platinum 11 tutorial lesson. And I'm out. And all this video is being recorded on Open Broadcast software, which is a free software where you can live stream to Twitch. You can do screen caps. You can screen cap with a web camera as well. So as always, thanks for watching. And that is a quick way to do 1080p 60 frames per second.